Hello everyone, it's time for episode 7 of The Second Messiah. On the last episode, we saw Vithericus sneaking through Antiochia, using the Judean siege to avoid the Romans in order to try and escape the Sassanids, who was already defeated a couple of times. Back in Italia, Ravenna was abandoned by the majority of the Roman forces, allowing Saphrax to easily attack and sack it, making us tons of cash. He then continued on to sack other smaller Roman settlements, almost leaving Italia altogether, but eventually heading south from Genoa towards Rome itself. Vithericus continued on, moving along the coast, destroying some Roman rebels on the way, and avoiding the Sassanids and their vassals further inland. We received a suspicious traitor from the Roman ranks, a protege who wanted to join us from Rome in order to further our cause, or at least so it seemed. We allowed him to come in for now. Saphrax then continued south to begin a siege at Rome itself. There were no real defenders inside, but he's going to maintain a siege and prepare equipment for an attack. Finally, Vithericus continued moving on, escaping the Sassanids it seems, and now moving into Egypt, where he'll start his journey up the Nile towards his destination at the source. Let's continue. Being loyal to Rome is like being loyal to a dog gnawing on your leg. I understand that no one's going to accept me, not for now, but I came here to convince you at least that I'm here by my own mind, for my own reasons. And may I inquire as to these reasons? These lands need to be tamed again. Everyone knows the tales of how things were, how they used to be when the world feared and venerated our people. Some of them still do, but not for long. But without Rome, without that guiding hand, the whole of civilization will be destroyed. This cannot be the end, not after everything mankind has achieved. But Rome cannot right itself now. It must be inherited by someone of strength. And you think you have that strength? No, you misunderstand. I am here with one goal, my lord, to make you the Emperor of Rome. Well, it sounds like it will be a lot of fun. Let me know when you've done it, okay? I am serious, Lord Saphrax, chief of the Ostrogoths, true and powerful leader of a people that deserve everything they can take. Your name is respected and feared in equal measure. You have the power to rebuild the foundations of all that is good in the world, but you have to act fast before incompetents like this Italian League try to do it and mess it up. I thought you were sent here from the Italian League. I came here on my own, betraying them. Ask them yourself. Whatever I must do to prove my loyalty, I will do it. But know that my goal is true. The people of Italia and the world need you to see how important you are. Vithericus is away from the Sassanids and now is about to begin his journey south. He moves up to the Nile, the nearest point he'll get to the mouth of the Nile, and now is ready to start following it down towards its source. You can see it sort of appears to stop the larger part, but then it keeps going as a smaller river for quite a long way, right to the bottom of the map, so we're going to follow it down. I could optionally attack Alexandria on the way and free Egypt as a new faction, as an ally, but I don't really think there's much use in the delay. We're going to keep moving south, encamping as we go to continue building the sheep pens that he needs to get his food situation good. Amalric, of course, can scout ahead as we move to make sure we don't encounter any enemies. There are some hostile states on the way, including one which has a big city on the road itself, which we might have to fight our way through. I'm also now going to upgrade his army, upgrading the final unit of the axes into Gothic Warband and upgrading all the cav into a significantly better cavalry unit. I just about have enough money to sort that out. Back over with Saphrax, you can see he is currently besieging Rome, the holy city itself, which has no garrison inside it. So once he's built some siege equipment, he'll easily be able to take it. The problem though is that he's starting to have a few second thoughts about the idea of just destroying Rome, when in fact this historic piece of the world could be used as a good base for constructing a new Ostrogothic empire. But of course he's not quite sure about that yet, so at the moment he's going to just stall, keep the siege going, building siege equipment that he doesn't need, overestimating the size of the garrison inside, and making the decision later on. Now in the next turn, Amalric is scouting the road ahead for Vithericus. You can see it's pretty clear, and we're going to bypass that Eastern Roman Empire settlement on the other side of the river by sticking to this side for now. So I can move forward as far as I can with movement points remaining for an encampment, set up camp, and next turn I think I'll have those sheep pens done. Plus, of course, encamping is going to help me regenerate the troops. This army isn't in perfect condition. It does mean that if I'm being pursued by any armies, then it's going to be easier for them to catch me, but as far as I can tell, I've got away scot-free from the Sassanid battlefront, and the Romans don't have any forces nearby to stop me, so I can just continue on at my leisure. In the next turn, we learn that the Roxolanians, who we were at war with, have been destroyed, and our allies, the Italians, have declared war on the Western Roman Empire, so it looks like they may seek to expand out. You can see there the Roman Empire's capital is right next to the Italians, so they may be taking some key settlements soon. And our other ally, the Illyrians, appear to be attacking the Romans as well, bringing forces down to lay siege to Ravenna, where there's also a Roman separatist force. So overall, the Roman situation in northern Italia is looking very dangerous. I think the Romans will soon see themselves destroyed, made even worse by the fact that Rome itself is under siege. In southern Italia, though, things are looking better. In particular, Tarentum is still an enormously rich city. It's effectively the new Roman capital. Anyway, we'll see to that in a moment. First, it's time to make Vithericus' moves for this turn. He, of course, can just keep moving south. At this point, he's going to cross to the other side of the river because that's what the road does. The problem with that, as Amalric is going to discover, is that there is a large hostile settlement on a river crossing that we'll need to use to continue on the road. It's got a full stack of guys inside. Some of them are just levied troops, but it also has powerful specialist units like camels there and some defector legionaries. So heavy infantry that will be well able to go toe-to-toe with the Gothic heavy infantry. So we're going to have to be a little bit careful to get through this situation. For now though, I'm just going to move up and encamp so that I can get my force in order before I try and make an attack against this town. The other option, of course, is to walk through the desert, go around it and find another river crossing, but the Gothic horde and the Gothic people are not very well equipped to do that. It's probably easier for them to fight their way through. I also realized I could speed up replenishment by just disbanding the damaged unit and hiring another one, which incidentally brings it in with more experience as well, so that little trick has made my army that much stronger.
So I walk into the tent and there he is in my seat. Doesn't even turn his tiny little Roman head to look at me as I come in, just keeps blabbering to Chief Saphrax. I was a little pissed, but it was just getting started. I sat down and listened to what he was actually saying. He wants us to leave the poor Romans alone, abandon Rome to keep it intact. What are we meant to do instead? Walk the mountains looking for scraps, as far as I could tell. He said we had to protect Rome from our allies and the Huns. Protect it! We came here to burn the place to the ground, and the worst thing of all was that the chief was guzzling that shit down without a word to any of us. This Roman is the devil's work.
So as the siege of Rome continues, Saphrax has finally made up his mind. He's being convinced, we should say, that an attack on Rome is not going to be helpful for his future ambition, or at least the ambition he really should be holding for his people. So as a result, he is going to abandon the siege, abandoning all the siege equipment he's built, and instead go around to take part in what's going on in Ravenna. His goal at the moment is going to be to defeat the Western Roman separatists, because we don't want that separatist force taking control of the Roman Empire, when really it's him who wants to do so. Now in the turn after that, Vithericus is ready to make his attack on the hostile city here. He comes up to begin a siege. The balance bar's about even, so it's a pretty dangerous fight to actually make in a siege assault. But of course, we don't necessarily have to go right in. We have the freedom to just keep these guys under siege, let them sally out if they want, and if they don't want, we can harass them a little bit to make our attack easier. The other option is to just siege them out completely, but in Attila that tends to take an exceedingly long time, so I don't think I'll be going for that. You can see there, it's going to take 13 turns before they'll surrender. So I'll keep them under siege for now, and once we move into future turns, I'll probably make a skirmishing attack, for which I'll need these superior archers for their extra ammunition, so I'm making that upgrade now. Back over with Saphrax, I'm going to move forwards. You can see that nothing's changed since the last turn. The siege is still going and the separatists are still just standing there taking attrition, so I might as well just let them stand there and continue to die if that's what they want. You can also see the Huns are on the scene now. I guess they probably wanted to besiege the city but found it was already under siege, so it's possible they'll go and attack other Roman territory. I am basically just going to flee from this situation, I've decided. Saphrax is going to take the horde to southern Italy where there's much less chaos with all these different factions fighting each other, and it's much richer and more fertile, so they should find more success there. In the next turn we have a noble birth in Vithericus' horde, so that's good news. Edgica is trying to promote himself onto the tribal council, but unfortunately someone is trying to stop him. Edgica doesn't have the influence to get in without help from someone else, so Vithericus is going to make a noble move to help his bastard brother and force him onto the council. Saphrax has also been promoted to the powerful position of warlord there. Theudis, one of his allies, is going up as well. So there we go, the horde moving south, escaping the Huns, the separatists and our allies who are marauding around, to move down to where the Romans are stronger but still don't seem to have any forces. There's a wealthy looking small town that I could attack, but again I want to leave it alive because I might want to take that town and make it my own. These southern looking Roman towns should be a stable base where most of the chaos of the world hasn't reached yet, and hopefully won't be defended at all. So now Vithericus is going to make a sneaky attack on Pacorus. We can move up and do a siege assault where we don't intend to actually attack the town, we're just going to weaken them. We'll move up and use our ranged units to try and destroy some of their defensive positions before the main attack occurs in a future turn. So here is the enemy's town filled with the forces of their faction Nobatia. They're defending this plaza area. They've got a good spear wall going on with troops positioned to stop me from getting into the town at all at the entrance point, with many supporting troops behind them on an upper tier of the plaza with skirmishers, horse archers, all sorts of units ready to defend. But of course this attack is only a feint. My target is this tower. I want to take it out so that next time I can come back and attack without having to take out the tower, saving my ammunition for the actual fight. This is something you only really need to do when you're trying to take out towers with archers, because it takes almost all of their ammunition to bring down a single watchtower. So I'm going to use this battle to deplete their ammo, try and set fire to this watchtower and any surrounding buildings, so that, as I said, I can make another attack in the future, not worry about that watchtower and have a free approach into the town without the tower taking my men out. Of course the tower is going to do damage to my archer regiments, but because they're actually not very good for much else, that's not a huge problem. And of course stopping the towers from defeating my main units is going to be much more important, so the archers are very good for this particular task. So later on you can see I've set fire to the tower and all of the surrounding buildings after huge waves of fire arrows, and the fire is going to quickly damage the watchtower and destroy it. Plus having the fire going on is going to damage the enemy settlement. The archers can escape now, still taking fire from the enemy's watchtower. We took a good number of casualties. You can see the ground is littered in bodies, but it was worth it. They've saved many more lives by taking out that tower. Plus, destroying the tower and the buildings around it adds to the settlement damage, which slowly increases and decreases the morale and stats of the defenders, so that'll make things even easier for my attacking forces later on. I tried to use some more arrows to take out some of the actual defenders themselves, but unfortunately archers just aren't very effective in this game, so they weren't really able to do anything. They probably killed 1 or 2 enemy troops before I ended up just giving up on my tactic of actually defeating these enemy units. It wasn't going to happen. If I wanted to actually deplete their forces, I was going to have to make some sort of skirmishing attack, against which the enemy could probably sally out and end up drawing this into a proper battle. So my forces are not really well equipped to fight at range due to the low quality of our archers. So the rest of the army can now simply leave the battlefield. We're done standing off against the enemy and making it look like we were going to do something. We can just walk off. The enemy just keep their positions. They don't sally out or fall back or do anything in reaction to my men just marching off into the desert. But off they will go. So all of these units will be preserved and will not have taken any losses. Neither have the enemy, but the enemy have lost their defensive power in this battle. So it was a worthy investment. I decided to try and take out another tower around the other side, on the western side of the town, because I thought I might just have enough ammunition to take it down. You can see most of my units there are pretty low on ammo, so there's a pretty low chance of this working, but I thought it might work, especially because this tower isn't protected by buildings like the other one was. Unfortunately for me, it turns out I was wrong in that the fire arrows really just don't do any damage to the towers. You have to hit them with so many fire arrows to bring them down. And of course, the whole time that these guys are standing here lining up their shots, the tower's firing back and depleting our numbers. I think one of my regiments lost half of its men by the end of this battle. So it wasn't looking good. I decided to just pull those archers out without continuing that project, and of course the rest of the army will pull out as well. So I've just ordered them all to withdraw. They'll just walk off the map across the red line of death after having walked just right up to it to make sure they can leave immediately. And that means the battle is going to end in a draw. Neither side won, neither side lost. That means the siege will continue because the siege was not resolved, but that tower I destroyed will remain destroyed if I make another attack in the next turn. Why even prepare for an attack? We should just burn the whole city and them with it. Enemies of God are enemies of God, and leaving them alive just makes God weaker. The king wants everyone alive so he can bring them all around later. He is a fool. People aren't going to listen to him, whether he has God's son with him or not. People are fools, fools who will die before they see the light. Anyone who can be converted already has been, simple as that. So why don't we make the job easier for ourselves? Destroy our enemies. Doesn't seem like such a bad idea to me. But the king isn't going to listen to me. Maybe if I let God know, he'll pass it on. So there's the battle result, a draw. The enemy losing far fewer troops than us because our archers didn't really do anything, but taking out that tower will be really useful once we attack again. You can see there one archer unit at half strength, the others looking okay, and the siege, which we can resume here, hasn't been lifted, meaning the enemy's supplies are still going down at the same rate as they were before. They weren't resupplied, so if I wanted to keep the siege going now, I could. In the next turn we have another noble birth. Our family's getting bigger and bigger with all these kids. Now the main news from Italia is that the Huns are really starting to step up the raiding. You can see that Illyria has successfully captured Ravenna, but both of their cities here, Ravenna and Verona, are being raided by Hunnic forces. So I guess I was good to escape this area before the raiding really started to destroy it, because it's probably only going to get worse from here unless the Italian army can stop the Huns. I don't know if they're at war, but probably not. For Saphrax, still hoping to move south, the Roman separatists seem to have jumped ahead of him and are now standing in his way. Saphrax has been persuaded to take on these separatists because he doesn't want anyone else attempting to make a Roman separatist faction apart from himself, especially after Italia effectively have already done that. So I'm going to declare war on the Western Roman separatists. You can see here that they don't have any actual territory, so this is their only army we're going to have to defeat. I'm not going to bring any of my allies in to fight this war. I'll just use this one stack against theirs. We already saw that their stack is really depleted, so it's obviously been fighting some previous battles, or possibly it's only depleted due to attrition, because we know it's been suffering attrition for a while. It runs away, meaning it's almost definitely weaker than us, so I'll just chase it down. There's a small risk of Roman forces being down here, but unlikely given the lack of Roman forces being anywhere so far. The enemy army is super weak, actually weaker than I thought it was going to be. The balance bar is overwhelmingly in our favour, so I'll just want to resolve that one. Pretty much a walkover for the Western Roman separatists. So that's that faction wiped out. They will not be separating from Western Rome anytime soon, and perhaps we shall be as a result. I'll take on a few of their warriors to bolster Saphrax's ranks for the minor losses in the battle. Overall, perfectly good result there. So now we can make our next move. Since attacking the Derby moves us further south, we're actually closer to our destination, which was Tarentum. I'm going to move back onto the road here and try and get a little look at Tarentum, and when I do, we discover a familiar sight. It's the Roman army, the First Legion, led by Praetextatus, our old foe from Ravenna, who escaped our attack there, but of course now we might have another chance to fight him. But it looks like his army is much stronger this time. We could have actually been led into a trap moving this far south. The full Roman legion could now just come out and attack us. I'm going to upgrade my archers in response. I'm hoping the Children of Eam would be able to win if a decisive field battle here is initiated. So it seems that escaping the chaos to the north has put us in what is actually a much more dangerous situation to the south. south. Perhaps whoever it was who advised us to come down here wasn't necessarily giving us the best advice. Now back with Vithericus, it's time to make another attack on Nobatia's town. We know that tower's not going to be there, so there'll be one approach that'll be easy to make, and I should be able to take out another tower, giving us 2 angles of attack that are safe into the enemy's town, forcing them to split their forces. And we'll definitely have an advantage in terms of actual infantry, because our Gothic warband will be far superior to the enemy's mostly levy-based forces. I'm attacking from multiple directions this time, so the enemy's defences are more spread out than previously. I'm focusing on that tower here, the one I tried to destroy in the previous battle, sending my archers in again to attempt to finish the job, this time with full ammunition but depleted numbers, meaning they'll damage the tower more slowly, making things still a little bit difficult. It's unsure whether I'm actually going to be able to take it out, already starting to take casualties from the return fire from that tower. So they set up and start unleashing their fire arrows on it. On the other side of town, the area I already cleared of the enemy's tower, the enemy have set up defences that I'm going to challenge with a smaller attack group. I've got skirmishers, some Gothic warriors and some spearmen ready to attack that opening that I've made for myself. I've got cavalry waiting in between my 2 groups, and the main part of the force with Vithericus is moving up on the approach that still has the tower, hoping to get that tower destroyed and then attack with the larger amount of my forces, attacking down a couple of different channels, because there are multiple roads I can use to access the city from this direction. So here are the archers trying to do their thing, taking casualties and actually not really doing all that much damage to the enemy's tower, because as I said before, the fire arrows are just surprisingly weak against the enemy's tower. So as a result, I decided that I was actually just going to rush my troops up. The tower wasn't going to be destroyed anytime soon. I was just going to lose all my archers realistically. So I'm going to make the attack. The other way to destroy the tower is to just stand next to it. But of course, while I'm running up to it and while I'm standing next to it, the tower is going to be taking out my more valuable heavy units. So I'm going to be losing some of these spearmen who are leading the advance as we go up, but not enough to make it a totally worthless tactic. We will be able to take out that tower. So you can see I'm attacking up 2 channels, as I said. I've got 2 roads, and I'm sending equal groups down both. A spear unit leading with Gothic warriors following. One channel only has cavalry defending it, skirmish cav though, against which I can't do anything if they do skirmish away. The other route has the enemy's main force. They've got spears and various skirmishers and a few heavy swords hidden at the back will be coming up very shortly. My men arrive on the tower capture point and start to destroy it. You can see the flag descending there, and they're also going to have to prepare to resist the enemy's counterattack. They come out with their heaviest spear unit, these desert spearmen, to engage with my Germanic spears. So I form up in a wall and start fighting. I'm taking casualties from the tower and then take even more when the enemy's camels attack. Luckily my spears should be okay against the camels, so hopefully we can take them down. The tower is taken down as well, so now we're safe for a while. My archers, those who survive, can now shift target to fire over the top of this melee and rain demoralizing fire arrows onto the enemy's ranks. So the main fight itself is now going good and proper. Our spearmen are going to have to fight their way through the enemy's spearmen, the enemy's camels, the massed ranks of the enemy's infantry versus ours. It's a brawl for these streets. Who will let their names be spoiled by not fighting this night? Everyone will remember the night the Northmen came, the night the desert sands rumbled underfoot, the night the great horde with a bounty worth the world was destroyed. And they will remember if you were not seen fighting, so take up arms and slay a Northman in your family's name. Do not let their stink fool you. They are men, not monsters, and will die by your spears just as sure as you will die by mine if I do not see you in my battle line. Children of Nobatia, let this night be the night we call the beginning of our golden age, the night we all fought and won as brothers. A card of gold for Vithericus' head. On the other approach, the enemy deploy their desert defector legionaries. These guys are pretty good and managed to get a flank attack on my spear unit as it advances. However, they expose their flank to my Gothic warband. The enemy seem to try to reposition themselves, then exposing their rear, and the Gothic troops just rush forwards and absolutely annihilate one of the enemy's best units. So very quickly, these desert legionaries can be wiped out, meaning we've routed a key unit and can continue our attack up this channel even easier. We've already defeated one of the enemy's skirmish cav units who didn't skirmish. The other one though is skirmishing. I sent a spear unit to chase them down, but that spear unit is going to be completely destroyed in that chase. Back in the other fight, it's still just a brawl match between both sides. The enemy's heavier troops though have been defeated, so now instead of fighting heavy spearmen, we're fighting their levied spears. My own spearmen have also been defeated, but my Gothic warband, now coming up to the front line, have a definite advantage over the enemy's desert levies. So slowly we're cutting our way through there. As you can see a tiny bit later, we've cut into the square just beyond that road, where my men are now promptly being surrounded by the continuous streams of more enemy troops coming down from the plaza in the centre of the town. My men are fighting very bravely, out of formation mostly, just going in and really slashing their way through the enemy's ranks. Luckily the Gothic warriors are extremely good at doing this. The downside is that they have low health, so once they've been in combat for a while, they'll start to very rapidly and suddenly take casualties. I've got other troops trying to fight their way up the hill towards the capture point and towards the plaza, where you can see more enemy troops are still streaming down from. A few of them have gone ahead out of the line. As I said, they don't like fighting in formation, but as a result they're getting overwhelmed by the enemy, who of course have the downhill advantage, so even though their troops are inferior, they're managing to inflict some casualties finally on these Gothic warriors, who are surely getting very tired after continual fighting. So to relieve the pressure on them, I'm making an attack on the other side of the town, the route I already secured after the skirmish battle. I moved up some javelin men to attack the enemy's desert levy, but the levy countercharged while I wasn't looking, and then while I escaped, my Gothic warband threw a couple of volleys of javelins, taking out half of my own regiment, so that was disappointing. But now the enemy's desert levy have to contend with 2 squads of Gothic warband, and they are very, very quickly going to be wiped out by the simply superior melee unit. So in just a few seconds there, you saw the enemy begin their engagement, and it ends. Their entire unit is completely crushed, and my forces now stream into the enemy's settlement. There's no more units defending us. We can rush towards the capture point now, where the enemy are starting to regroup. On the other side of the battlefield, my exhausted forces are still doing okay fighting up the hill. The enemy have lots of cavalry and lots of their camel troops left, who my men are struggling to kill, but they're starting to run low on actual infantry. I've got more reinforcements pouring in, but I'm pretty much down to just Vithericus as my reserve on that battlefront, so I can't really commit anymore. The enemy's camel troops are doing a lot of damage to my men. They kept charging the spear units. You can see one of my spear units has been completely wiped out. Another charge there coming in to finish them off. I've got some cavalry in reserve who I can't deploy against those camels because they'll be wiped out, so I really need those camels to just leave me be while I push against their weaker infantry and get inside the town. On the other approach, my spearmen and Gothic warriors have managed to find the enemy's general, who is defending the entrance to the capture point. So we're now fighting the enemy's general in melee using spearmen. His heavy cavalry shouldn't last too long against this attack, so this is an excellent situation. Plus, this attack seemed to cause the enemy to pull back slightly, allowing many of my super depleted units to now rush up the hill into the capture plaza and attack the enemy's forces here in the rear. So these Gothic warbands are now going to completely wipe out these desert tribesmen, who really have no hope against the superior unit, especially because I'm getting a nice charge on them. So, in the confusion of the darkness, my men just obliterate the enemy's forces, and now at this point of the battle, things start to turn very much in our favour. The enemy's general is lost there somewhere in the melee as well. I think he very soon gets killed. There he goes right there. As a result, his troops start to flee, but of course they won't escape. They're already being attacked from 2 sides. The majority of them will die, and you can see I've also snuck some of my brigands through to start capturing the town. A chain rout ensues, and all of the enemy's remaining troops, of which there were actually quite a few, start fleeing. So we didn't have to take out their survivors, all those camels in the end. They just got out of there. Most of my troops were actually lost, especially in the leading attack, meaning it was only a close victory for Vithericus, but an important one. We've completely wiped out the enemy forces standing before us. We can have our way with the town and now move on. I don't think there are any more obstacles before our destination. watching. The source of the Nile will be in sight for Vithericus at last in the next episode of The Second Messiah.